Hey everyone, and thanks for taking the time to check out this video. For today's presentation, we're going to be exploring one of the most timeless questions in the firearm space, as well as showing off a rimfire survival concept with capabilities that might surprise you. Stay tuned. Let's start by setting the scene. Something big happened and we need to get off the X now. Communications are down and all we know for sure is that where we are is not safe. We're offered no promises as to how long this situation will last, what's waiting for us down the road, and we can only take what we can carry. The question is, which firearm or firearms are you taking? An obvious first choice would be a fighting carbine. If we prioritize mission adaptability and a high performance ceiling, we will probably lean towards something like the AR pattern. If instead we prioritize long-term usability by way of a reduced preventative maintenance burden, we will probably find ourselves with something more akin to this AK pattern. And speaking of reduced maintenance burden, maybe we want to take that even further. Do we go ultra simple and versatile with something like this 12-gauge pump gun? Or do we go even simpler still with a full power bolt action? What about concealability? Maybe the everyday carry pistol we already have on us checks the boxes we need. Or maybe we think that concealability and firepower aren't mutually exclusive, and we want to carry something like this MP5K. Listen, I'm not here to say that any of these choices are right or wrong, or that there aren't dozens of other choices worth considering. Just about everything is a compromise, and determining whether or not something is a good compromise inevitably comes down to mission dependence. Subsistence hunting after a complex power grid attack is a little different than fighting off waves of cordyceps zombies, and again, we really aren't sure what we're in for. Either way, I think there's at least one more option we should consider, and that is the humble 22 LR rifle. So why on earth would we consider this anemic plinker over all those serious weapons we just looked at? Well, to condense a 31-minute video into 2 words, ammunition sustainability. Guns work best when they are loaded, and hypothetical cataclysms have a high probability of severing the ammunition supply chain at multiple locations over time. Just so we're all on the same page, this already happens on a small scale just about every time a foreign war or US election cycle kicks off, so just imagine how bad it would be if something more serious happened. Shows like The Last of Us depict ammunition plants in full swing 20 years after global collapse, but my only question for them is, where are they getting barium nitrate from? We live in a global economy, and without that global economy, a lot of our nice things go away pretty quickly. In any case, the argument again for the 22 long rifle is that we can carry a lot of ammunition, and no matter how significant that ammunition's ballistic drawbacks may be, it still vastly outclasses the sharpened stick we're going to pick up when we inevitably run out of 5.56. The thing is, I'm just not sure this Marlin Model 60 is going to cut it. If we're going to venture off into the unknown with just a 22 long rifle, I think we can do better. And that's where this guy comes in. This is the 3rd iteration of my tactically optimized rimfire survival system concept, and it has been designed and refined to milk every ounce of performance possible out of the 22 LR cartridge. Whether or not this is a good idea is ultimately up for you to decide, but as I alluded to at the beginning of the video, I think many of you will be rather surprised with what this thing is capable of. So for the rest of the video, I'm going to do my best to show you and let you be the judge. Our first performance criteria is that we can transport the entire weapon system, including all enablers, support gear, whatever we need to keep that weapon running for as long as humanly possible in one trip. We've got a deployment bag, we've got an assault pack, and we've got a belt. Let's get that stuff on. In this scenario, we're most likely going to a vehicle at this time. That's why it's important to take one trip, because once again, there's almost certainly going to be other things demanding our attention. The last thing we need to do is waste time on something that hopefully we had already staged. In this case, we don't have a vehicle, but let's get this stuff out of here. All right, we're off the X. We got a little bit of breathing room. Let's see what we actually have. So inside our deployment bag, we have the weapon system itself, folding stock, makes it a little bit more compact. Loaded magazine in the weapon. I do happen to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loaded mags ready to go here. These are kind of a redundancy. We got plenty of mags on our belt. These are our primaries. If for whatever reason we have the ability to hold on to these, great. If we don't, no big deal. These are redundancies. Redundancy is a big part of the system. That's it for the bag though. This is just to get the weapon out, so let's get rid of this. We'll also take this opportunity to downgrade our assault pack and look at what goodies we have in here. Big thing is we got our Kevlar. Obviously, astute viewers will have noticed that this is a Nightvision compatible gun. If you're using rimfire and ballistics are not working for you, you need another way to pick up the slack. Nightvision is a great way to get an advantage over a numerically or ballistically superior adversary. I'm going to go ahead and put this to the side for now and show you what else is in the assault pack. First out is the solar charging kit. I'm going to talk about this more in a second, but for now we're going to set it to the side. The big thing in here that we have is battle packs. This is sealed with oxygen absorbers, and in total in here we have 1,800 rounds, a mix of supersonic CCI mini mags as well as subsonic Winchester suppressor ammunition. Those are the 2 rounds that I know my zeros for with this particular weapon, and they are 2 rounds that have worked very reliably in this weapon. So we got 1,800 rounds here in this assault pack. Obviously, we're not going to carry that every single place unless we have to, but 1,800 rounds, that's a lot of ammunition to have on deck. That's pretty cool. If we're traveling by vehicle, the sky's the limit in terms of how much ammunition we could bring, but in terms of a man-portable system, I've found that 2,500 rounds is about what I can carry, and I break that up. There's 1,800 in the assault pack. I've got about 705, not about 705, exactly 705 on the belt, and then 15 in the weapon. Speaking of the belt, let's take a look at that now. Working from my left counterclockwise, we've got the dump pouch. Obviously, this creates a great ergonomic advantage and the ability to retain magazines, which is really important in this scenario. Moving left, we've got magazines. These are Ruger BX-15s. I choose the BX-15s because the protrusion from the weapon is really important for the ergonomics. It gives you something to grab onto. You're not fiddling with the 10s. And I find the BX-15s to be more reliable than the BX-25s. And they are stowed in these USGI flashbang pouches. They work great. I do have these Velcro covers sewn on, and basically this gives me a tactile indicator of whether these are loaded up with subsonic or supersonic. So I've got 2 subs here, followed by 3 supers. And then on the front right, I've got 1 sub and 1 super here. And in terms of the ergonomics, we'll go ahead and just get a quick simulated reload just to show you. Again, one of the main design goals of this weapon is to function like a modern fighting carbine and not just like a Plinker 22. So we're up, we're out, and we're back in the fight. And obviously that is a pretty big improvement over something like that Marlin Model 60 we were looking at earlier. I'm gonna set the weapon to the side to show you the other features of the belt. Go ahead and rotate this to show you the back side. We have gloves. Gloves are handy. I'm a gloved shooter. Not everyone is. Gloves are handy generally, but they're particularly handy for me because I shoot best with gloves on. So of course we got our gloves here. This is going to be our sustainment pouch. We have got AA and CR123 batteries. These are going to be for the IR devices, the white light, and the EOTech optic. We also have a complete cleaning kit for 22 long rifle, as well as a multi-tool. We got brass wool patches, we got brushes, we got ballistol in multiple forms. Go ahead and set that to the side. Actually, this is as good of a time as any to show you that you might be thinking 1022, that's going to be a pain to clean. You're going to lose your zero. Not with the Fletcher 1122 receiver. So this entire system is accessible from the top. So I can take the bolt out, I can clean it, I can access the bore without taking down the weapon at all. That is a huge plus. And that also gives me the ability to carry a drop-in spare bolt for the Ruger 1022. If for whatever reason, get firing pin damage, spring wears out, well, I got a whole nother bolt ready to go in here. Now, with this guy, this is an IFAK pouch, but this is multi-purpose in my particular system. So right now, as it sits, we have got 600 rounds of 22 long rifle just sitting in there. We got 300 of that Winchester super suppressed, and then the rest is CCI mini mags. It's a lot of ammunition to just have on the belt. Now, if we're in a situation where we are downgrading and adapting to a particular mission, now we can go ahead and just, I would take it out of the bag, obviously, but we have a IFAK insert that's ready to go. So this can be an IFAK if it needs to be, and if it needs to be ammunition storage, it can be ammunition storage. So last thing on this belt is obviously going to be the drop leg clip. That's pretty self-explanatory. If you would like to back up, reaching into my assault pack here, your 22 long rifle primary with a more potent secondary, you can go ahead and get yourself something like this Glock 17. Totally optional, but in this case, I have a Glock 17 loaded up with critical duty 135s plus P. And like I said, this is kind of secondary to the system. We're not going to talk about it a lot. There's a lot of different approaches here, but I do have it set up on mine. I guess I forgot. I do have this. I do have one spare 9mm pouch here. I'll go ahead and clear this. Obviously not the primary, but the point is that if we do need this, we do have some degree of ability to keep this weapon in the fight for a short period of time. Either way, we've got our base of operations now. So next up, we're going to go ahead and go on a little patrol, and maybe I can show you how this thing works. All right, so we got a shot to make here. This is as good of an opportunity as any to show off the suppression capabilities of this particular weapon. You may notice we've got a very short suppressor. This is rugged oculus in short configuration, only 5 baffles. But on a 16-inch barrel, listen to how it sounds. It's pretty quiet. If we want to dial it up a bit, we grab our Tandem Cross Spartan extended charging handle, and we bring that down by preventing the action from cycling. Now, that does have the potential to induce malfunctions, so we do want to be careful with that particular capability, but it really is quiet. That's something we might take advantage of. So now in this case, I have induced a malfunction. So like I said, not a great idea unless you're very confident that there's no return fire coming your way. So let's go ahead and demonstrate our ability to fix a malfunction. The straight blade will be as good of a tool as anything here. Just like that, we can go ahead and get this weapon back up. Another thing we're going to demonstrate here is that this weapon, as configured, basically has the manual of arms of an AK. So we're basically going to fire until we get click, and then we're going to reload, and you'll see the reload is essentially an AK reload. We rock and lock. We grab that charging handle, and we're back in the fight. I know I showed off the reload ergonomics earlier, but let's take another look, this time for real. And let's be honest there, any bobbles there were a skill issue on my part. This weapon can keep up with your skill level, wherever that happens to be. Now, another edge this rifle brings is the enhanced Ruger PX trigger. Let's show off some control pairs. That'll work. All right, so we got some rain and hail coming in. I'm wet, weapon's wet, but this is a good thing. The sound of the hail is gonna mask my gunshots. Already a massive signature reduction with the suppressed 22 long rifle. But check out what this ambush is going to look like when we got a little weather in the background. All right, the ambush went great, but we're not going to push our luck. Let's get out while we're ahead. All right, so at this time we have completed our patrol. So what we're going to do now is go ahead and replenish our gear. First things first, we're going to go ahead and reload our empty magazines, and this is really where the 22 long rifle starts to pay dividends. So I got 2 empties in my dump pouch. These are both subsonics. So of course we're going to reach into our ammo pouch and pull out that 600 rounds we talked about earlier. And I'm going to retrieve 30 rounds of ammunition. I'm fully loaded up again. I've still got 570 rounds on my belt. I can do this for a long time, and that's not even factoring in the 1,800 rounds I have in my assault pack. If we're taking this scenario seriously, we cannot underestimate the advantage of being able to reload over and over and over again without resupply, without exposing ourselves, while the people around us are putting themselves in dangerous situations or trading resources they don't want to trade in order to get more centerfire ammunition. Getting a little froggy out here. I'm going to go find some better cover. All right, it looks like things are starting to finally dry off, so let's go ahead and take a look at weapon cleaning. Now, at this time, the weapon does not need cleaning, but I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate how easy it is if I had to. Got a paper towel here. You can use whatever you've got. Pretty easy to salvage a paper towel, but just like that. It does take a tiny bit of finagling, but it's really not too bad. We got the charging handle, and you can see the bolt just lifts right out. Let's go ahead with my toothbrush and some CLP, or I could even use water. It's not rocket science here. CLP is ideal. Obviously with water you have additional considerations, but just go ahead and clean that up. Go ahead and clean the bolt face up. Under certain circumstances, I might consider pulling my bore snake that I carry through here. That's really primarily for protecting the bore after it's been exposed to water or something. Like I said, however, this weapon is perfectly serviceable, so I'm going to go ahead and drop that bolt back in there. I'm going to carefully finagle that tandem cross extended charging handle. There we go, just about got you. And we're going to go ahead and press it into place. A little bit of pressure right there will help, and we're back in. And just like that, we are back in business. Mountain weather changes fast. We got a little bit of sunlight, and this is a perfect opportunity to demonstrate the solar charging module that I brought up earlier in the video. So as you've already probably put together, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to have a 22 caliber rifle, 2,500 rounds of ammunition, and all these high-speed electro-optical enablers if we can't sustain the enablers for as long as we can sustain the ammunition. That's where the solar charging comes in. In addition to our spare batteries, we got these Amazon solar chargers. I've been using these particular ones for a couple of years. They work shockingly well. If we got nothing else going on, we can just lay them out in the sun. If we got to move, we hang them from our assault pack, plug in what we got to go, and we just charge on the move. What are we charging, you ask? Great question. First up, rechargeable batteries. These are nickel metal hydride AA's. We got a charger right here. All we do is plug in at the USB port at the bottom of the solar panel, run the cable into our bag to secure the charger, and we're good to go. AA's cover both our PVS 14s and our EOTech, whereas for our light and laser, we got the same setup with CR123s. But like the infomercials say, but wait, there's more. Just because we already happen to be charged up in this case does not mean we need to waste this beautiful weather. We also have battery banks, which we can use to store power while it's available and distribute later when it's not. Oh, and if we're really running low, we can do both at once. I'll leave this to charge now and give you a closer look at what we're actually charging on the weapon. Now, as for the specific enablers we are powering, I'll talk about that for just a moment. We've got an EOTech 558 as our primary sighting system. This is on a Unity riser, which is attached directly to the Fletcher 1122 receiver, which should give us a very durable zero. This optic is sitting at 3.5 inches height over bore, which is extremely comfortable for heads-up shooting, as well as for night vision use, which we'll talk about in just a moment. However, of course, this weapon needs to have endless redundancies. So if we need to pop this guy off and access our MBUS 3 backup irons, that will absolutely work. Back to the EOTech, however, some people might think that's a strange choice for this build, and on a certain level, I agree with you, because friends of this channel might have heard me say before that as a USASOC armorer, I saw a lot of deadlined EOTechs, and I don't think I ever saw a deadlined aim point. And there's a strong argument that in this scenario we are exploring today, you might want the most durable long-term optic available, and that is an aim point. The reason I'm still going with an EOTech, its night vision performance is unparalleled. We are at a disadvantage with a weapon like this that can only produce about 130 foot-pounds of kinetic energy. So anything we can do to tip the scales unfairly back in our favor is probably worth doing, and night vision is one of the best ways to unfairly tip the scales in your favor. Remember that ambush we simulated? Probably pretty hard to react to in the moment. Now imagine reacting to that in the pitch darkness. It's a bad day. And speaking of night vision performance, of course, we have our light emitting devices. We have an Inforce WML Gen 2. This offers white as well as infrared flood. I like these lights a lot. And we have the Holosun 221G. This is an infrared designator with slaved visible laser for confirming zero during the daytime. Like the Inforce, it's a relatively low-cost unit, but honestly, these things work really well. And with the relatively narrow diameter of this Midwest Industries chassis, I am able to get very positive control of the weapon. I bite my hand into this BCM vertical foregrip, and I am able to control these enablers in a way that is extremely comfortable for me. Honestly, this is the most comfortable night vision firearm I've ever shot, even compared to much higher cost M4 variations. And again, when we're looking for that night vision advantage, ease of use goes a long way. Just rattling off a few more things here. Obviously, we have this Midwest Industries chassis I just mentioned. This is a phenomenal product, worth every penny. And on its own, it elevates the 1022 in a big way. That being said, I will warn viewers who are interested in recreating something like this. The Midwest Industries chassis is not compatible with the Fletcher Rifle Works 1122 receiver. If you look at these cuts here, I had to do that with a hacksaw in order to accommodate the unusual profile of the Fletcher receiver. If a monkey like me can figure out how to do it, I'm sure you can as well. Just be aware that in order to make this work, you are going to have to get your tools out, and you're going to have to roast the warranty on this product. I believe I've already mentioned the skeletonized tandem cross Spartan charging handle. This is great. It is roughly twice the length of the factory charging handle, and that's a big deal just for getting that purchase and getting those quick reloads. Magpul pistol grip, Magpul buttstock, Midwest Industries skeletonized buffer tube and folding stock adapter, Ruger BX trigger, and last but not least, we have the Magpul MS4 sling. The Magpul sling is great because we've got that quick adjust slider. If we need to get this up, we can go ahead and cinch it down if we want to get tight on our body. And if we're working under night vision or have a bunch of equipment or something, we can easily switch it over to be a single point sling. And there's certain circumstances under which that's quite beneficial. And once again, all these little things are working together to allow this weapon to perform notably better than your standard off-the-shelf 22. All right, guys, it's finally starting to get dark. I got a feeling we got a night mission to go on. All right, guys, and with that, I think I've demonstrated just about all the capabilities I'm able to capture on film. I'm not sure how the night vision section turned out. That's hard enough to film when you have help, and I don't have help this weekend, so it is what it is. All right, and with that, I think the very last thing to do before we go ahead and call it a day is a quick AAR or lessons learned. Obviously, I framed this video as a demonstration, and that's exactly what it is, but it's also an ongoing test because every time I take my stuff out, I try to learn from it so that it can be that much better next time. This weekend, I have 3 takeaways, and if you've watched this far, I figure you might be interested in hearing what they are. Takeaway number 1 is that I had a bad experience with a new batch of Winchester Super Suppressed 45 grain ammunition. I know earlier in the video I mentioned that it had been very reliable for me in this particular weapon, and that was true. I got a new batch, and this one had a lot of malfunctions, both off camera as well as a couple on camera in segments that I didn't use. So my takeaway from this one is that particularly with rimfire ammunition, it's important to test by the batch, not just by the brand. Takeaway number 2 is pretty related to that. Because I had a significantly higher malfunction rate that I normally have with this weapon, I was clearing more stuck casings than usual, and it became abundantly clear to me that my belt-mounted multi-tool was not the right tool, and I need a dedicated fast access tool in order to clear stuck casings from that weapon. Hopefully when I get the ammunition sorted, those will go back to being extremely rare. But again, it is rimfire. They are still going to happen more frequently than they would in, for example, an M4. So having the ability to clear those as quickly as possible does make sense. I believe the tool for that is going to end up being a paint can opener. I might have to shave down the tip of it a little bit to make it work as efficiently as possible, but that's cheap, that's easy, and I think that's going to be a great addition to my kit. Takeaway number 3, and the reason I'm wearing this belt, at the suggestion of a few of my friends, I've been testing the Micro TORSS. This is a handgun version of the tactically optimized Rimfire Survival System. It has a lot of the same capabilities in a much smaller package, and while I have a lot more time that I need to spend with this, I will say I've been pretty impressed. I do think there's a place for both, and who knows, down the line, I might find this to be my primary rather than the full-size TORSS. That's the video, guys. Like I said from the beginning, my goal today was not to convince you of anything, to teach you anything, simply to show off a concept that I find very interesting and have been playing with for several years now. If you did get anything out of this video, I'd sincerely appreciate it if you took the time to do the YouTube stuff, like, comment, subscribe. Other than that, thanks again for taking the time to check out this video. Stay safe, and have a great rest of your day.